Ciao guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to work together on an exciting project using Tableau, worksheets and social media data. And there are a few reasons why I believe this is a very powerful project. The first reason is that you can pretty much replicate it end to end in less than half an hour, and you can definitely add it to your data analytics portfolio. The second reason is that we're going to use a combination of Google Sheets and Tableau, which can show that you can work with multiple data analytics tools at the same time. The third reason is that it is a very visual type of project, meaning that you can easily display it in a portfolio, and also a recruiter will not have any problems understanding the final result. And the next reason is that we will be working with social media data, which now is in high demand, especially if you are aiming to work in the web analytics space. So without further ado, let's start this data analytics project together. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to show you is obviously the data source, which is our starting point. So this is a super simple spreadsheet that I saved in Google Spreadsheet in my Google Drive space. And I call this file community tracker, and the tab is called followers summary. And as you can see, super straightforward. We have the channel in column A. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Medium, LinkedIn, and Threads, which are the social media platforms where I usually post my content. And also I have all the dates in different columns. So the last date would be the 1st of May 2024. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is trying to populate this Excel spreadsheet. So every first day of the month, I will input the number of followers. And this is basically it. We're going to use this as our base for our project. Okay, and then now I just open Tableau. And so as you can see here, I have nothing in Tableau itself. So the first thing that we obviously need to do is to click on connect to data on the top left. And in this case, I'm going to select Google Drive because I store my data in Google Drive. I'm going to do a normal sign in on my Google Drive account and just allowing for all the steps. Then you should see this page here. And then now we can go back to Tableau and actually choose the file that we're interested in. So as I mentioned, we're interested in the community tracker. So I'm going to find that file in my Google Drive. And I'm going to select community tracker and then scrolling down and click on connect. And then now in the data source page, you should see these two tabs. So in our case, if I click on view data, this is the data that we're interested in, so the followers summary tab. So what I'm going to do is just grabbing that and putting in the pane. And again, here I have a preview of the data, so exactly what I was showing to you before in Google Sheets. Now, as you can see, all the dates are in different columns, which is not actually a good way to use our data. So what I'm going to do is to pivot this data. So I'm going to select all the columns with date fields, and then I'm going to right click and then click on pivot. And as you can see, Tableau automatically pivot all the data, and then now we have a date in one column and the number of followers in a different one. So now I just need to change the data type because this is not a string, this is a date. So I'm just gonna select date. I'm actually gonna rename this field and I'm gonna call it date. And then for the number of followers, the data type is correct, and I'm also gonna write count as the title of the column. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We can now start working on the first sheet. Okay, so the first thing that we want to see is actually this date field, because if I bring it into the rows and I click on, well, I want the exact date and I also want discrete. As you can see, the first rate would be 12th of January 2022. Instead, it actually should be the 1st of December. So because of my default settings in Tableau, this calculation, this date is not seen as I was expecting it. So I'm going to actually rename this field and call it a date row. And then I'm going to create a new calculated field with the actual date that I would like to use and see going forward. So I'm gonna call this field date, and basically I'm just parsing the date row field and I'm parsing it as a string, and I basically change the format into a different format, so year, day and month. So this is exactly what this formula is doing. And then if I click on OK, then I'm going to move this new date field into the rows as well, because I want to see one next to each other, the difference between the two. So I'm gonna click again on discrete, and as you can see here, you have now the correct date format, which is what I was actually expecting, which is day, month and year. Okay, and so basically now that we have the date that we wanted, we can remove these fields. As you can see, these are all 1st of the month as in the Google spreadsheet. So I'm just going to remove these fields from the pane, and let's start now building our first worksheet, which is tot KPI, which is basically showing, I would like to show the total number of followers that I have on all the accounts. So I'm going to create another calculated field, and this will be a field that we will use also going forward, so which is the total followers of the current month. And I'm gonna paste this field here. Okay, so this is probably a bit overcomplicated, but we're gonna also use this calculation in next steps, so that's why I wrote this type of formula in this way. So what I want to do is to calculate the sum of the field that is called count, which is the followers, but I want to sum the count field only when the differences of the month and comparing to today is 0, which effectively means that I'm only interested in the current month, because the current month will be the month where the difference between the month and today would be 0, if that makes sense. So a bit complicated, but this will give me the total followers on the current month. I cannot doing a normal sum of the count because these are cumulative data set, so I'm only interested basically in the last column of this data set and summing the followers of that column. And so what I'm going to do now is bring in this new field that we just created into text. I'm going to hide the title because I don't need that, and then I'm just going to reformat this text field. So I'm going to click on text, and in the label I'm just going to paste the format that I would like to use for this text, and then just centering everything and clicking on OK. And I'm also going to select the entire view, and I'm also for the alignment I'm going to center this text, and this is the total KPI, and just giving the total number of followers across different platforms. Now I would like to do something very similar, but instead of having the total number of followers for all the platforms, let's focus now on a KPI that is only for Instagram. So the first thing that I need to do for this KPI is adding the channel into the filters and selecting only Instagram. And then now we can use actually the count field into text, and instead of the sum I'm going to select maximum, and this is a different way to calculate the total KPI. So again, we use the maximum for this value because I cannot sum the number of followers for all the months. I'm only interested in the last one, which obviously would be the maximum amount that you see for the Instagram field. Now for this Instagram KPI, I also want to add one more level of details and insight here, and I want to see also what is the percentage difference between the current month and the previous month. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a new calculated field, and I'm going to call this percentage of difference versus previous month. And again, I'm going to put the calculation that I'm using for this field in here. Again, this is maybe a bit less straightforward to read, but it's simple calculation that is basically doing the percentage of difference between the current month and the previous month. And I'm getting, the logic is pretty much the same as I explained before. So I do the date diff between month and today equal to 0 to calculate the current month, whereas when you see date diff equal to 1, it means that it's taking the previous month, where the difference compared to today would be 1. And I use the formula of, the percent difference. So basically the sum of followers in the current month minus the previous month, everything over the count of followers of the previous month. So that's a formula for the percent difference that I'm using. I'm gonna click on OK. And then now this new field that I just created, I'm gonna put it into text. And I obviously need to change the formatting because this is a percentage. So I'm gonna go on default properties, number format, percentage, and I think I'm gonna do only 1 decimal places. And we have a 13.5% difference between followers of current month in Instagram versus previous month. Again, I'm gonna do a bit of formatting here as we did for the total KPI. So just inputting here the format that I would like to use, and then centering everything. I'm gonna again hide the title. I'm gonna click on entire view, and actually for the alignment, I'm going to bring it a bit up in the screen, because also what I want to do in here is actually adding a shape as well. So let me show you that in a second. So I'm gonna click on the marks and click on shape, and then now I have the circle as default, but if I click on shape and then more shapes, now I can select the different shapes that I downloaded already. So in my case, I already downloaded all the social media shapes. This is a very simple thing that you can do. I use an app called the Flat Icon to get all the icons that I use for my Tableau dashboards, and once you download those icons, you can just add them to a folder in your laptop that is called the Tableau repository. Inside the folder, you will see a shape folder, and inside that you can add your shapes. And if you click on reload shapes, you would see all these shapes over there, which is exactly the steps that I've done myself. So I'm just going to select the Instagram shape and then click on OK. And now, as you can see, we have the Instagram logo in our dashboard. I'm just going to decrease the size a little bit, but this is pretty much the KPI for for Instagram. So total number of followers of the current month and also the percent difference with the previous month. Okay, so now I want to actually work on tooltips, and I'm gonna create a new worksheet that is called tooltip 1. And basically my goal here is that when we hover over the KPIs, we actually gonna see a few more details in the tooltip. So it's a bit of a tricky way to add more information on the chart. So let me show you how to do it. So I put the date into the columns, and as always, I click on continuous and month because we're interested in the month. I'm gonna bring the sum of counts into the rows. I'm gonna actually use a quick table calculation with the percent difference, and I'm actually gonna change the line chart to orange color, and I'm gonna show mark labels as well so that we see the percent difference in the chart itself. Now I need to format the percentage because again I prefer to have only one decimal place for the percentage, so I'm gonna click on percentage and one decimal place, or actually 0 decimal places. We don't really need decimal places. And then now we can slightly format the axis if we want, so I can click on edit axis and maybe remove the month of day title of the axis. We don't really need that because it's clear already that we have month. I can select the range for the tick marks, so I can click on tick marks, and then on the major tick marks I can click on fixed and then having interval every month. So that's what I'm doing in here. Then I'm gonna close this one, and then we can also format the dates in a kind of a easy way to read. So I'm gonna click on axis and then dates and custom. The way that I would like to see the dates are month as a text and then year with the abbreviation, and that's pretty much a good format for the dates. And then now that the tooltip is completed, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in the total KPI, because here is the place where we want to add this tooltip. I'm gonna click on tooltip, and then I'm gonna remove what we had as default, and I'm gonna insert sheet and then tooltip 1. I'm gonna increase the size of the tooltip because I want to see the whole chart, so I'm gonna do 700. And as you can see here, as I hover over the KPI, then I see the trend of percent difference. So pretty cool, because that's a kind of a extra insight that I can bring into this particular KPI. And then now I'm going to do exactly the same, but this time for the Instagram KPI. So I'm going to create a tooltip 2, and which is going to be actually duplicating tooltip 1 because it's going to be very similar. This time I'm going to put channel in the details, and I'm going to show you why in a second, because now I want to see only the trend for Instagram whenever I hover over Instagram. So let's do again in here. As you can see, you have a different tooltip. We can remove what we had in default, and again inserting this time tooltip number 2. I'm gonna increase again the size of this tooltip, but this time I'm going to add a filter. So instead of selecting all fields, I'm actually gonna select channel because we're interested only on Instagram. So I'm gonna click on OK. If you see here, I hover over and I see all the different channels. So what I need to do is actually add in the channel into details. This is a little thing that makes a lot of difference when working with this type of tricks for tooltip. So you have to add the channel into details, and so in this way, now that I hover over the Instagram KPI, I see the trend only for the Instagram channel instead of what I was seeing before for everything. So that's exactly the end result that we wanted. Okay, and then now basically what I'm doing is duplicating the Instagram KPI, and I'm going to do exactly the same for the main social media channels that I use. So I'm gonna do the same for TikTok. I'm gonna rename TikTok KPI. I'm gonna edit the filter, and instead of Instagram, selecting TikTok, and then I'm also going to change the shape, obviously. So I'm gonna click on shape, more shapes, and for Instagram I'm gonna select TikTok and clicking on OK. The good thing is that the tooltip will automatically be updated for TikTok, so we don't have to touch that because we already added the filter that recognizes that this is a tab that is talking about TikTok. And then again, I'm gonna do fast here. I'm going to do exactly the same for LinkedIn. So again, LinkedIn KPI and changing the shape, and then exactly the same for YouTube as well, and changing that shape too. Okay, and then now it's time to work on a different chart. So I'm gonna call this line chart, and I want to see the trend of followers over time for all the platforms in the same chart. So there is a little trick to do in here, so let me show you. So first of all, let's as always do the date in the columns. So I'm interested only in the months, and then I'm gonna bring the count of the followers into the rows. So this is the trend, all the platforms. Now what I want is actually bringing the channel into the colors so that every single platform has its own line chart. And then now I'm just going to slightly change the colors of each of the lines and also decreasing the size of the line chart a little bit. Now what I would like to do is actually seeing the icon of the social media at the end of the line chart. And in order to do this, there is a little trick here, and we need to create this calculated field that is called last count, which is basically doing a sum of the count of followers only for the max date that we have in our data set. In this case is May 2024. So this is the calculation that we needed. And then I can bring this last count again into the rows. And as you can see here, I'm also going to do the dual axis because I want to bring them together and also synchronize the axis. Let's not forget this step whenever we do dual axis. And then I'm also going to remove the header because we don't need the header on the right hand side. And what you might have seen that the only difference now is that we have also a dot at the end of each of the line charts. So if I now go into the last count marks, which is these dots that we created, now I'm gonna reformat what I want to see here. So for the channel, instead of these colors, what I'm gonna select is shape, and I'm going to put a channel into shapes. And then now if I click on shape, I basically again can select a shape for each of the different social media accounts. And so I'm gonna do Instagram, LinkedIn, and the rest as well. And then if I click on OK, now the shape is super small, but if I increase the size, magically you will see that now we have the shape of all the different social media accounts at the end of the line chart, which is exactly what I wanted to have to kind of make it a bit more interesting as a line chart. Now I think that the colors of the line charts changed again, so I will need to rechange the colors as before. So let me do that quickly. And again, I want to slightly reformat the date axis as we did before. So I'm going to remove the title, and also I'm going to add month intervals and also changing the formatting of the month and year. I'm also going to slightly reformat the tooltips in this way. And yeah, this is pretty much the line chart that I wanted to create. All right, and then now the last chart that I wanted to create is a simple table that gives a bit more details on the followers and the dates. So I'm going to put channel into rows. I'm going to put the dates into columns. And again, as always, I'm going to select, in this case, I'm only interested in the month. So I'm just going to put month and remove the rest of the dates. And I'm going to click on discrete. So we have the month and year as we want. I'm just going to increase the size of the columns. And I'm actually going to hide the field labels. We don't need that. So now, okay, we have all the different dates. And then now what I'm going to do is dragging the count into the text. And so now we have basically the followers by channel, by date as well. I'm also going to add the count into details because I also want to add the percent difference in the table as well. I'm gonna put that in the text. And so as you can see, now we have total number of followers, but also the percent difference between the month and the previous one. Then the other metric that I want to see as well in the table is actually the daily amount of followers on average that I get every single month. And in order to do that, we need to first of all calculate the number of days in a month. So let me quickly create that calculation. So in here, as you can see, I basically get the difference for each of the month of the days that are in that specific month. So that's exactly what this calculation is doing. And then now what I can do is actually creating another calculated field, which in this case will be the average daily followers. And then now what I'm going to do is to sum the count of followers minus, I do the lookup of the sum of the count minus 1, which means that is a table calculation that is getting the previous number from the count of followers. And then I do a division, so the result of the change in number of followers in a month over the total days in that specific month. So I do OK, and I bring that field into the text. And as you can see here, we have now the number of followers that I get on a daily basis for that specific month in each of the platforms. For the average daily followers, then I'm gonna change the decimal places and just removing decimal places. We don't need that. And then now I'm just going to quickly reformat the text in the table. So what I wanted to see is the sum count in bold, in a bit bigger, because that would be the focus that I would like to have in this table. And then I'm also going to change the alignment to center. Now I'm also going to add the grand totals. So I'm going to click on the top of on Tableau into totals and then show columns grand totals, as default Tableau brings it at the bottom. Whereas if I click on totals, columns totals to top, then I have the totals at the top. The last thing that I would like to do is actually reformatting the grand totals, because that's something that again I want to focus on when looking at the table. So I'm gonna right click and then click on format, and then in the grand total, both in pane and header, I'm gonna click on this blue color, which again brings a bit more focus on the grand total as it's a different color. Okay, and yeah, this is what I wanted to have, so pretty happy with the table. Okay, so now that we have all the charts ready to go, I'm going to click on create a new dashboard. I'm gonna bring it at the start of the screen, and now we can bring everything together. So first of all, we need to increase the size of the dashboard. So I'm gonna do 1120, and then a height I can do 1460. See that everything fits in that way. And then now the first thing that I'm going to do is working on a title for our dashboard. So I'm gonna bring in a horizontal container, and then in this horizontal container I'm gonna bring in a text, and I'm gonna put loresowhat followers summary, because that's exactly what the dashboard is about. I'm also going to bring in an image from my machine, an image that I saved with my profile. So I'm gonna select that one, and then fit image, center image, and clicking on OK. And then also I'm gonna bring in a blank field in this horizontal container. This is just for bringing things in a kind of a aligned way. So I'm gonna show that to you in a second. I'm just gonna bring another horizontal container. In this one, we're gonna bring in all the KPIs, so total KPI, and then the different other social networks as well. I'm gonna hide the title for all of them. And then at the bottom, I will add our line chart that we created. I'm gonna hide the title, and actually I'm gonna add a text where in this time I'm going to put the text of the chart, which is followers change over time. And then I'm just gonna readjust the size of it. And then at the end, I will bring the last chart that we created together, which is the table. And I'm gonna call it details about followers count, percent increase, and daily followers. And then now what I need to do is changing the size of all the elements and also removing the legends that we don't really need in the dashboard. And then now again, it's just a matter of rechanging the size of all these different elements and the titles as well, so that everything is properly visible. And then I will click on top on dashboard, click on format, and actually the dashboard shading, I want to have this very light gray color, the whole dashboard. I think it looks pretty well. And then now for this square for the KPI, I'm actually going to change the outer padding and put 15 for all of them, because again, just to create a bit more space on for each. And then for the line chart, I also want to change the background color. I don't want this white, I actually want to match the gray color as well. So that's what I'm going to do for the formatting. And also change in the axis, instead of count, I want to see the followers. And I think the table looks pretty good. The last little detail that I want to add towards the bottom of the dashboard is actually kind of a signature. Just gonna write made by loresowhat. I think is also pretty good addition at the bottom as a footer of the dashboard. I'm also going to add a bit more space for the titles. And yeah, this is pretty much it. As you can see, the tooltips are working as expected. And this is our dashboard showing a lot of details about my followers over time. All right, and there you have it, a simple data analytics project that you can easily replicate in less than half an hour and add to your data analytics portfolio to demonstrate your spreadsheet and Tableau skills along with your social media understanding. If you have any questions on this project, please feel free to leave a comment down below, as I always reply to all comments. And make sure to like and subscribe to my channel for similar videos. This massively helps me to reach even more people. I will also leave here some other data analytics project tutorials that you can work on using Python and SQL. And well, as always, enjoy the rest of your day. Ciao for now, and see you in the next one.